When I wake in the middle of the night, I don't always see darkness. Sometimes I see fog outside the window of my old bedroom, the way it curled like smoke, and I can hear water dripping from the trees. Sometimes I see my daughter's face on the day she was born. I can often picture with perfect clarity our old kitchen in the house where I grew up, or the patent shoes I wore until I outgrew them and handed them down to Dodie, or the yellowing second-hand paperbacks I used to pilfer from Vale's bedroom bookshelf. Other times, the faces of the people I've seen over the years appear in my mind. The girl in the stairwell at my high school, the man in the window of a neighbor's house, gesturing for me to come in, the woman underwater in the lake, still wearing her wool dress and straw hat. I never forget any of them. And I think somehow they know it. That's why they show themselves to me. Why I can see them when no one else can, I'll never know. For a moment in the dark, it's almost peaceful to recall their faces. Then I turn my head and catch something from the corner of my eye, and for a moment I think I see... But no, never. Not for years. It doesn't matter how long it's been. I'm always afraid it's there. And then I close my eyes and wonder what it's like to see nothing at all. The day was clouding over as I took my equipment from the trunk of my car. Buckets, cleaning solutions, brooms, mops, gloves. The house stood a few blocks from the shore, a split level that was dark and empty of life. My employer, Tess, had given me a key. I stepped through the front door and paused, taking in the silence. The quiet of a house that is no longer lived in is somehow different from any other silence, a little like pitch darkness. The place was tidy, dim, slightly dusty, the blinds drawn. From what Tess had told me, the elderly woman who owned it had died in a hospital. Not here. That was something, at least. The easiest place to start in a job like this is in the bathroom. Small, and just about everything must go. I started with the guest bath, leaving the upstairs bath for later. Then I moved to the cabinets and bookshelves in the sitting room, sorting rapidly. I was a cleaner, but of a specialized kind. The company I worked for cleaned out dead people's houses, sorting and distributing their belongings. Some people died with no living relatives left to do the job. Others were, for whatever reason, not on speaking terms with everyone they ever knew. Some isolated themselves, and others were genuinely loathed. When that happened, my employer would get a call from a landlord, lawyer, or other far-removed person, and Tess would send me. It was an efficient process. Since I had no connection to the person who had died, I could do the job without shedding a tear or feeling a pang of guilt. Throwing out the used toothbrush made me feel nothing. I didn't care that this woman had listened to Lawrence Welk records or had been prescribed antibiotics in 1981. I could toss out the old handmade Christmas ornaments. I could box up the family photos without being tempted to look at them, even for a moment. I'd gotten into this line of work when my own mother died, alone in a rented apartment, far from the house where my siblings and I were raised. I'd wanted nothing to do with her belongings, hadn't wanted to touch her dresses or whatever items she'd kept of my father's for all those years. I'd never even been to her apartment and didn't want to go now. So I'd found a service to empty it for me. Tess was the one I'd hired. She and I hit it off. She always needed cleaners, and when I offered, she was willing to hire me, even after knowing the dark corners of my history.